The way you put pressure on politicians is to scare them. The only reason this happened is because I scared them. Because I raised my voice and I was screaming outwardly the way everybody who lacks health care has been screaming inwardly. This woman is screaming inwardly the way I've been screaming outwardly, and that's why it got traction. That's how you fucking do a pressure campaign, not by sending them chocolates. We got to be nice to the people to get them to do what they fucking ran on. Are you out of your fucking mind? That we have to be nicer to them to get them to do what they fucking ran on? You're a cuck if you don't fucking hold their feet to the fire. They ran on it. The DSA, it's in their goddamn fucking manifesto that this is the centerpiece and they wouldn't get on it. Shame them. That's what fucking works. You think this happened because I was fucking nice to them? No, it's because I finally started holding the Justice Democrats to account for their bullshit. That's why this happened, not because I was fucking nice. And that's what's wrong with the left. They're a bunch of fucking mealy-mouthed, spineless pricks who don't do a fucking thing. The moment came and they did nothing. And they sold you out for their careers. I don't care if they don't take corporate money. They are a brand. They are a celebrity fucking brand. They sold you out for their own careers, their own celebrity brand, and their own fucking protection. That's what they did. What is the point of voting for people who don't take corporate money if they fucking go along with the people who do? There's no point. This is a failed experiment. This is a failed experiment. If you don't recognize that the progressive movement is unbelievably fucking decimated and that they won't even fight a little, and you don't see this as an existential crisis, the squad agrees with us, our policy positions, but when they won't do anything to implement them, it doesn't fucking matter. When Ro Khanna comes on my show and says, I think we should force a vote for Medicare for all, and then a chance comes up to do it and he doesn't do it, it doesn't matter that he says it or agrees with my position, does it? No. In politics, the only thing that matters is the outcome. It doesn't matter how the sausage gets made. The outcome is what matters. I don't care. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And if you're not willing to threaten the Justice Democrats and scare the shit out of them, they're going to do exactly what they just did yesterday. Sell you out for their own celebrity and career, which is what happened. The vast majority of Democratic voters want Medicare for all. Progressive independents want it. Even a majority of Republicans polled, yet the Progressive Caucus squandered their golden opportunity. We still came out to advocate for forced to vote. God bless those people. Dr. McGowan, God bless you. The Socialist Alternative jumped on board. They endorsed our hashtag forced to vote. Socialist Alternative endorsed it. DSA didn't, even though it's in their manifesto. But I guess we shouldn't, we shouldn't shame them. I jump on board their idea and they come and attack me. I jump on board the Justice Democrats' idea and they come and attack me. That's what they're fucking doing. AOC tried to sick her neoliberals on me by saying I was causing violence, when all I was doing was was exactly what AOC told me to do, which was stop using polite language. She said it. Stop using polite language. Until you make people uncomfortable, nothing will happen. She got uncomfortable, didn't she? Yes. Didn't Mark Pocan? Yes, they did. Ro Khanna's so fucking uncomfortable. Every one of his interns wrote him a letter, and today he came out with fucking bullshit about how we could get Medicare for all, which is complete bullshit. That's how uncomfortable he is. They're all scrambling. Not because we were fucking nice, but because they know we're all watching and we're going to hold their feet to the fire now. So hold their feet to the fire. Quit making fucking excuses for them. Unbelievable. I'm not making this up. This is the existential crisis we're living in. And if you don't want to hold the Justice Democrats' feet to the fire, it's probably because you have fucking health care. Socialist Alternative endorses forced to vote. If we can win a floor vote on Medicare for all, we can use that vote as a focal point for building our movement. We can focus the public eye of this life or death demand. We can work within our unions to win support. We can organize our forces to mount public pressure on Congress to concede to this massively popular demand. But we don't have the vote, some say. The corporate Democrats will block us. Then let them block us. AOC and other progressives should not be afraid to expose corporate Democrats in front of millions for what they are, servants of the status quo and enemies of working people. That's from the Socialist Alternative. That's Shama Sawant. Yeah, she's a member of that. Shama Sawant jumped on board with hashtag force to vote.
Yes.
It's weird. She didn't take $20 million from Clinton donors or right-wingers. Isn't that weird? Our revolution... This is right from Seattle, the whole state. Our revolution. This is Bernie's organization. They endorsed it. The whole our revolution, Washington. Members of Congress, we respectfully inform you that our revolution, Washington coalition supports force to vote. If there has ever been a time that has magnified the failure of the American healthcare system, it is now with 40 years of failed corporate healthcare. Our revolution, Wisconsin, was on board with us. We are calling on Representative Mark Pocan, our revolution, Bernie's organization. Cenk Uygur against Bernie organization. The Young Turks. Now against Bernie, now against everybody. We are calling on you, Representative Mark Pocan, as our elected representative to stand and fight for us by leveraging this critical moment to hashtag force to vote for Medicare for all. We elected you because you promised to fight, and we expect you to make a good on that promise. If not now, when? That's the question no one will answer. Okay, you're against doing this right now for absolutely no reason. There's not a reason to not do it. Every reason is ridiculous. Yet they didn't do it anyway. Huh. And I'm supposed to not shame them. Not only do I want to shame them, I want to find a way to make sure that they that we can primary them. Not only that, should we shame them? We should scare the shit out of them that they're going to lose their seat, because that's exactly where we need them to be. Or else they do that. They don't fucking do what they even campaigned on. If you can't hold their feet to the fire to do the shit they campaigned on, you already lost. If you're going to nice them into doing what they campaigned on, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. You got to be nice to them to get them to do what they campaigned on. And if you're not nice enough, they're not going to do it because you were rude. What the fuck? Can you imagine LBJ saying, if Martin Luther King, if he's rude to me, I'm not going to do the civil rights? Can you imagine if I was around in the late 60s and LBJ saying, I'd like to do Medicare for old people, but Jimmy Dore was a jerk? What the fuck? Whole Washington, universal health care. They're on board for whole Washington health care. They're on board. Statewide healthcare organization requests members of Congress to force the vote. There it is. Healthcare LA was on board. And shame on anybody who wasn't. Shame on the DSA. Shame on anybody who wasn't on board. The Justice Democrats, TYT. They just revealed themselves. This is a clarifying moment. They all revealed themselves. They'll never fucking fight when the moment comes. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. And so now if we don't accept that they're not doing this, now it's our fault. Fool me once, shame on you. They already did that with the CARES Act. That's how I felt about the CARES Act. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So now they're going to fool you again. So now it's your fault. If you don't do anything to hold their feet to the fire right now and make them pay a political price for fucking not doing this thing that they ran on, Shame on you. Now it's your fault. Brianna Joy Gray agrees with this.
ISIS fundamentally in this country. The reason that we don't have Medicare for all is because the people in leadership aren't willing to say who is responsible for us not having Medicare for all.
She is Bernie Sanders' press secretary. That's who's giving the speech.
88% of Democrats support this policy, and nearly 50% of Republicans do as well. And yet barely 50% of House Democratic membership supports Medicare for all. That gulf is not there because the people don't want it. It's because no one is holding leadership accountable to their constituents. We have a media apparatus that's completely unwilling to play. We have a lefty media apparatus that's largely silent on this issue as well. Right. And when we do have opportunities, no one is willing to name names and call out members of Congress, including people who were civil rights heroes. Right. You know, including people like Jim Clyburn, who happens to take more money from the pharmaceutical industry than anybody else in Congress. We can't be afraid to say these kinds of things. At the end of the day, without accountability, we're not going to make any progress in this area.
Without accountability, we are not going to make any progress in this area. So the people who are making excuses for the squad, I want you to tell me, how are you going to hold them accountable? Because that's the question I asked to everybody, Ben Spielberg, and everybody on Katie Halper's Zoom call. How do we hold them accountable when they don't do #ForceTheVote, which everybody on that Zoom agreed should be done? How do we hold them accountable? And you know what they said back? Silence. No one has any idea on how to hold them accountable. I do. We tell them that you're a fraud. You're working for your own celebrity and interest, and you're not working for our interest. And we're going to let everybody know with a public pressure campaign. That's what they should have been doing before this vote. That's what they should be doing now. They should be scrambling to figure out what, because, by the way, there's nothing they can do. This was the moment. Just like with the CARES Act, you know why I was screaming so loud because that was the moment. And now it's over, and you see they're never getting a stimulus. They didn't get one for a whole year. And that's why I was screaming then, because I knew that was it. That was the one time we had leverage. That was it. The CARES Act. That was our leverage. They all voted for the largest upward transfer of wealth in history and then lied to us about what they got us. So that's why I was yelling so loud this time, because this was the one chance we had to get this. Because now it's over. And then in 2022, the Democrats lose the frickin' House. The Republicans come in, rewrite the rules. It's all over. Then in 2024, Joe Biden loses to a worse right-winger. We'll never get it.
And it's going to be uncomfortable. And there are going to be people that we all have liked and supported and admired and fought for and donated to and marched for that are going to be uncomfortable, that are going to be targets of this kind of criticism.
Targets. They're supposed to be targets. The people who we've all worked for, like the Justice Democrats, who we've all helped get elected, like Cori Bush and AOC, this show has helped get elected. Now we have to make them uncomfortable, not send them chocolates or be nicer. What has that gotten you? It got you fucking nothing. Nothing. People who agree with you, it's gotten you nothing from them. Nothing. People who agree with you won't do anything.
As they should be. They took this job because they wanted to be public servants, not because they wanted to be celebrity public figures. Yes. Yes. And it's going to be hard because they are beloved. And you are going to be vilified and called every name in the book. You're going to be Bernie Broed to death.
It just happened to me. AOC Bernie Broed me to death. She said how she was worried that my words were violence and that I was too violent with her online. That's crazy. That's what they said about Bernie supporters and Bernie. That's what they did. And she's saying that's what the squad is doing to me. And all I'm doing is doing exactly what AOC said to do. Stop using polite language and make people uncomfortable. That's what she's saying. That she's saying to make AOC uncomfortable. That's who she's talking about. She's talking about the squad, people we've all donated to.